Welcome to the Resilient Butterfly Podcast. My goal is to share inspiring stories of healing and recovery through many diverse approaches and models. Our guests bring incredible lived experiences, insights, and/or professional expertise, each with their own unique path. While we highlight and celebrate these stories, our intention is to inform, inspire, and demonstrate resilience and creativity. This podcast does not endorse any one approach. We believe there is more than one way to heal, and we're here to showcase the resilience and possibilities that exist. Welcome to Resilient Butterfly, where we explore stories of strength, transformation, and hope. I'm your host, Pam Feinberg-Rivkin, and today I have, it is an honor to have Candy Finnigan, who is a very well-known, internationally, nationally recognized addiction specialist and interventionist, best known for the work on A&E's intervention show, I believe starting in 2005 or 4, and award-winning. She's also the author of When Enough is Enough, a comprehensive guide to successful intervention. And beyond her professional expertise, Candy brings her own powerful recovery story. Thank you for being here, Candy. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I am first going to go into what inspired you to, in your story, what inspired you to, or what led you to recovery?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. My husband passed away several years ago, but I was married for 52 years and met my husband in college. If you see these strange bird behind me, those are Jayhawks from Kansas University. And that's where I met my husband. And my mother-in-law was Irish and 6'1", and wasn't kidding.
Wow.
Let me put it that way.
Wow.
And she came to visit. I had 2 young children, and she came to visit and kind of caught me drinking behind the scenes, you know. And she was a social worker in this small community in Ohio, and which was the county court. And she was the welfare investigator and the divorce investigator and the investigator. And she wasn't kidding. And she just said, my husband was a very recognizable and known musician in the world.
Mm-hmm. We will talk about him as well, if you could.
And he was on tour. And so she targeted me and said to me, I don't want my grandkids to be raised by an alcoholic mother. And I was infuriated.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know who you're talking about. It can't be me. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, I started drinking after my daughter was born in 1977, but I didn't look like a drunk. You know, that's what my envision of that was. And so she was going to take my children away during the summer if I didn't get into treatment. And I thought, this woman is a force to be reckoned with. I'm not messing with her.
Right.
And I was very close with her, and I'm adopted. And so talking about taking somebody's kids away from them is not going to work for me.
Yeah.
So
it hit every point or button you had there, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's all it needed for me. So she said that she would give me until my kids got out of school. This was in April, and my kids got out of school in May. And I thought I better beat that. So on May 1st, I went into treatment and called her, and she didn't believe me. She thought I was making it up. And my husband had just gotten home from tour. She belonged to a program called Al-Anon, which is the sister program to the anonymous programs. And they had taught her way too much. And she thought all of a sudden she got this, you know,
and not she got into Al-Anon because of her husband?
No, because of she had 3 sons, and my husband being one of them. But she's been around a lot of, alcoholics in her work, in her business, and she would try to help everybody she could, but it was primarily her 3 sons. And because I had her fooled for a long time. So I went into treatment as never intending to quit drinking. As I stated, my husband was a musician, so all of this behavior was very acceptable in that.
Sure. Was he drinking at the time too?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was 6'7" and Irish. He could drink, boy.
Oh, wow.
And she was 6'1", so I'm 5'2.5". So
you were the little one.
I thought I could drink like a lady, but it ended up I couldn't. And so I got into treatment and then got out of treatment, and someone 12-stepped me into an anonymous program. And in 2 months, I'll have 40 years. So that's my story.
Congratulations.
So thank you. And my husband got into sobriety 7 weeks after I did.
So you fell together. That is awesome.
Well, that's the only way the marriage would have ever worked,
Sure.
You have a very slim chance if one person gets sober and the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
Because to an alcoholic, there's no such thing as social drinking.
Yeah.
So it would have been very painful for me to be around. I know some people it doesn't bother, but in early sobriety, it would have driven me crazy.
Sure. So were you or his mom or both instrumental in getting for his sobriety? Or
for his sobriety?
Or
he was
choose?
Well, I think it was that, lose the kids, lose the wife. We hadn't lost anything, to be honest. My kids went to a fabulous private school. We had a beautiful house in Studio City, California. My husband was highly respected. I was a room mother and vice president of the PTA, and it was working,
Yeah.
There is such a thing as a high bottom, if you can believe that. But I think we were it. We hadn't lost anything yet, but it wouldn't have been long, maybe a couple of years. My husband probably could have drank a lot longer than I did.
Yeah, because of his size.
And his business, that's all very acceptable.
Acceptable, and then he traveled too, so right?
Well, but he was around a bunch of people that drank, before the gig, after the gig, in the gig, so it was highly respected as a part of the musician's world. So
sure.
He was one of the very few and first people that got sober and helped so many people.
And you founded Music Cares with that?
No, I did. And my husband and David Crosby founded, and several other musicians founded the MAP, which is the Musicians Assistance Program, which was connected to the Music Union here in LA, Local 47. And so from that, and a man named Bunny Arnold, who was a genius, and he too was a musician. He'd been a jazz musician out of New York, and it was a nonprofit, not affiliated with any particular other than we had an office at the Music Union. And so when these guys would get sober and go back on the road, I worked there, or I volunteered there, I think I should state, for 5 years. And kind of Buddy would say to me, get in the car and go pick up this guy. His wife's going to, kill him if he doesn't stop drinking.
So is that how you started interventions? Oh, wow. That's interesting. And from that, as far as your volunteer and picking people up and getting them into treatment, I would assume it's many different treatment centers that they would end up in, correct?
Yeah, at that point, MAP, Musicians Assistance Program, had a contractual agreement with a lot of places. The Ranch in Desert Hot Springs, the Betty Ford Center, and all, most of them in California, because that's what we were more familiar with, but Promises. And so we would put them, because MAP being a nonprofit, we paid for their treatment. So I think we allotted $5,200 a person. And,
that doesn't go very
ago,
that doesn't go very far now, right?
40 years ago, that'd be a couple days. So,
Sure.
And so we had this agreement with them, and so we would put them into treatment. Yes, and and then sometimes sober living. There was a sober living place that had a studio in it, and a wonderful man named Lance ran it. So it was like the whole package. If they'd lost everything and didn't have a place to go back to.
Sure.
And then Buddy got very sick and passed away. But in the meantime, we had morphed over to the Grammys and got involved and got involved with Music Cares. And so Music Cares was going to do if you needed dental work, if you needed your gas bill paid. And then it started doing mental health, paying for that. And MAP did all of the chemical dependency, the drugs, the alcohol, and a low dose of mental. And then, 2 years ago, MAP was dissolved, and it's just Music Cares now.
And the money is donated through different musicians in the field? Or?
No, part of the Grammys is the Music Care fundraiser, and they've honored, you name it, Paul McCartney, Bonnie Raitt, David Crosby, Natalie Cole, and Eric Clapton, Joni Mitchell 2 years ago, Bob Dylan. All of these people we would have a evening with, and people would perform. And they would raise anywhere between $2 and $3 million.
Oh, wow.
And that's what fed Music Cares.
And that's $2-3 million in a year, and they would do every year, they would raise that amount of money.
I've been to about 27 of them.
I bet they're really fun.
Yeah, they are. They're for a really good cause.
Mm-hmm.
And the record companies and everything underwrite the evening. And so I would say 90% of all the money goes into this fund. And then people apply. Mm-hmm. And they started doing immediate families maybe 15 years after it was started. So if a wife needed it or a kid. So I think they're, if I'm not kidding, I think they're up to about 11,000 people they've helped.
That's incredible. Very nice. So you were trained under Ven Johnson for intervention.
Dr. Vern Johnson.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I say Ven. I know somebody who actually goes by Ven, Vernon Johnson, if you were trained under. How does that compare to the style that you used on the intervention show versus years later? Did anything change in your style of intervention, your approach to intervention?
Well, Dr. Vern Johnson, he was an Episcopal minister. And he created this process actually in the church because he saw too many people sit around in a circle after a funeral and say wonderful things about him. But why didn't they say it to them and get them help? And I think one of them, as a matter of fact, was his brother. And he started this, and you invited the intervention, the first two pews at a funeral, everybody that sat in those were in it. So it was an interesting, intriguing thing. The thing I learned from Dr. Johnson, then he had the Johnson Institute in Minnesota, which I think Hazelton eventually bought. But for me, what I got out of it was a very huge spiritual connection. And it turned into my life work. It isn't my career. It isn't my job. It's my life work. And I think a lot of that had to do with walking into somebody's home or meeting with a family. They don't know you.
Right.
And you want them all their dirty little secrets, and our secrets are what keep us sick and tangled up in this. And they'd have to have some trust in me. And I jokingly say I've never walked in an intervention alone. I've always brought my higher power with me, because I wouldn't be able to do this work. And it's like I heard you say, I don't really bring anything else but hope. And that hope includes hoping the addict, alcoholic, hoping the family.
Sure.
Because sometimes the family's in worse shape than the designated patient. So I'm a crisis interventionist. I'm not a familiar interventionist. That process maybe could last 3 days. I'm usually called when they're down to the wire.
Yeah, that brings up a whole, because there are different avenues to go into in regard to how you approach the intervention. Each family that comes to you, right? So how do you determine?
I have to say the disease looks the same, the family looks different.
Sure. So how do you determine when it is a crisis and moving the family along at a pace that they're going to, be very quick about it, versus they're not ready? They keep saying, no, he's not, he or she won't go, they won't go, and they say, there's nothing we can do right now. How do you approach that?
I don't call them, they call me. So it's usually...
I know, but sometimes we've been called in the same thing. They call us, and then halfway through, I'm like, they change their mind. So that's why I bring that up.
Well, in my situation, usually there's been some crisis. They've gotten a DUI, they've got domestic violence, they've got arrest. I mean, it's like, and I deal a great deal with mental health now. So depends on the age, depends on if it's a 17-year-old smoking pot and in psychosis, or if it's somebody who's been drinking for 25 or 30 years. So I give them a great deal of time for free, and to get the story and figure out if this is anything. I can tell you I've maybe turned down 20 interventions in my 33 years that I didn't feel like I was qualified to do, or I didn't think it was to, let's do an intervention so I can get this person out of my house, or it's a great excuse for me to serve them divorce papers. I won't get messed up in that. I mean, you can do that on your own. But, a lot of them have been, and 90% of the time you get there, and I mean, I've had so many families call and say, I've never seen him drink. I've never seen him do drugs. This is what I suspect. Or I'd say, well, we've got to have tangible evidence. And usually I can dig it up. So I think every situation is very different, but the outcome hopefully is always the same.
So between the intervention show, and in real life, is there a lot missing? And because they build it up in regard to, they didn't really show as much time with the family as I know that you put into, right?
Yeah, well, the wonderful thing about the show, it was the easier, softer way for me. They spent a couple of months interviewing these families and making them send videos. And, I signed on for the show, to be perfectly honest with you, because I never thought it would work. I wasn't hired immediately because they kind of wanted somebody that was like 5'10" with blonde hair and large breasts, and I'm not that. I'm 5'2" with red hair, and we won't go into the rest. But so I did absolutely nothing differently on the show than I do today. The only thing of it is that the pre-intervention meeting with the families that lasted sometimes 3 or 4 hours.
Sure.
was on for 4.5 minutes.
Right.
So
I wanted the audience and the families to recognize that it's not a 4.5 minute meeting, and then they go into meeting the person that they want to intervene on, because there is a there's a backstory of whatever you're going to get from the whole family, for them to recognize, everyone to recognize how serious it is.
Well, I think that listen, I got to tell you, the truth is, applying for that show was harder than getting in the Army. I mean, it was like, at one point we had 2,000 or 3,000 families a month applying.
Wow.
So we had to almost get like a casting situation, which is kind of not fair for this. You'd go through the initial call, then you'd talk to somebody else. And oddly enough, they would never hire anybody who was in recovery. And that drove me crazy. But their reasoning was they would be too soft-hearted and wouldn't get to the particulars. I mean, on many occasions, I got out there and that wasn't the story that they had been told. It was either much less or much more severe. And one thing I'll tell you that was very true about the show Intervention, if anybody told the designated patient, the designated addict, alcoholic, or emotionally distressed person, we were gone within 2 hours. And it always made me so upset, because who wasn't getting the treatment? If grandpa goes, just do this, kid, we got your free treatment, or, whatever the situation was. And there were a few of those, more than I'd like to. But I always followed up and tried to get them treatment someplace else, because the addict alcoholic was left hanging.
Right. And that always doesn't happen at the moment that everyone is there in the room. And I did want to watch some of the early shows with you. So the other day I watched one, and one particular young man walked out and basically say, F no. And then you went to meet him in the parking lot and came back, and he ended up going to Cirque Lodge. So those and
I know exactly who you were talking about.
He was a musician.
His mother didn't show up for the intervention because the washing machine serviceman was coming.
Yeah. There was an abandonment situation there with the mom
horrible,
early life.
Horrible.
Which brings it to, many, many times there is a trauma. Most of the time there is a trauma, abandonment, wounded situation that leads someone to drugs and alcohol to begin with.
Or I'm a huge believer in genetics.
Sure.
I think with girls it's 56 to 58%. If they have a father that's alcoholic, they become alcoholic, or they marry an alcoholic, because that's what love looks like. And it's 10 or 15% higher for boys. And my kids are adult children of alcoholics, because he had two parents. And that is in Claudia Black, who is one of my mentors and a genius. She's the one that created this whole, system of adult children of alcoholics, and the wounded child, and all the rest of it, depending on when you get sober and how old your children were.
Sure.
I just work with the family, and the kids are 20, 17, and 11. Mine were 3 and 7. There's a big difference.
I had Jerry Moe on in a
He's my other idol.
Yeah, and he unfortunately just retired. But I had him on my podcast sometime in this past year, maybe it was last summer, and he is just amazing man who's put so much. Yeah, he is an idol of mine.
Oh yeah,
and
I'm one of the lucky ones that has his book, the Beamer books, that the children's books, and then they had this little. I'm not going to run to my room and get it for you, but they had this little stuffed light bulb. That was Beamer, and I think they made 25 or 30 of them, and man, I got one in my room.
Oh, nice. For the audience that doesn't know who Jerry Moe is, he worked with children, and Betty Ford brought him to the Betty Ford Center to create a children's program for 7 to 12-year-old children, as I recall. It could have been younger than that.
I think it's 14.
14. And for them, free of charge, for them to be able to play and just be surrounded.
React that this isn't their fault.
Exactly.
And addiction has nothing to do with love. It has to do with the disease. And, you know, when you're 7, you think, why won't they pick me up? Why won't he show up? Why won't he? And Jerry is magical. I'm very good friends with him. And I remember his big goal in life was to get on Sesame Street. And the night he did, I'm telling you, there was a party going on.
Yeah, for everyone too. Which brings me to, how much do you think the intervention show contributed to education and information to the world, and how to see the reality of what people are going through, that, you know, so many families are in denial, reality, and what is possible for their loved one? How much influence did they have?
I can't even begin to tell you. A huge amount. First of all, the word intervention wasn't known. And now when I hear like presidents and people go, well, we're going to intervene, I go, well, yeah. You know, I think the show brought hope. I had created this show in 2001 and took it to 3 different places. I had a very professional treatment. I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have a lot of things I probably should have, and trademarked it. And everyone said, you know, we don't want to be around drug addicts or alcoholics. And how do you think we're going to get this dealer? And I got an option for 3 months. They paid me maybe $350. Never picked up the option. My mistake was I never went back and picked up the treatments. And somewhere along the line, somebody found one. And the show was starting to be created in 3. The man who was involved with this is one of my all-time great loves, is a man named Sam Mettler. And he wanted it to be a comedy show.
Oh, really?
He wanted to intervene on people that had chihuahuas and dressed them in new outfits every day. And I said, buddy.
Oh, God.
This is kind of a life or death situation.
Yeah.
So let's see how we can rework this.
Yeah.
And I worked very closely with him in the beginning. And, you know, all of a sudden, all these interventionists came out of the woodwork. Some good, some not good. And he hired Jeff Von Bondurant, and Jeff is kind of a Christian interventionist. He isn't an addict himself. But through the church and he worked at a Christian treatment center. And he's a wonderful, wonderful, caring man. And we were the first 2, and we did 13 interventions in, God, I think like 3.5 months apiece.
Wow.
And they were all, you know, very different, correlated. Then we brought in Ken Seeley, and then it just kept morphing. After 12 years, I quit. And I will be honest with you, I resigned because the show started wanting to be scripted. And the last shoot that I did was in Marietta, Georgia. And this guy had been up on drugs for 3 days and fell asleep in his car. And they wanted me to say that he had overdosed and call the EMT and drag him out of the car. And he was asleep. I knew he was asleep.
Right.
And I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And
well, good for you.
That so happened that the representative, which maybe once every 2 years from A&E, was there. And he said, this is what we expect of you. And we had this woman who was an interventionist in Georgia as a Georgia representative. And, you know, she's bringing in hair and makeup, which I never saw the likes of.
Yeah.
You know, and TJ Maxx was my designer. And, you know, it's like, who's this broad? And so I just thought, I came home and talked to my husband and I said, I'm not going to compromise my own values for anybody. By the way, it was the lowest paying docu-reality show in the history of TV. They didn't pay for treatment.
They didn't?
The treatment centers paid for it to get on the show.
Wow.
So I made a lot of friends and a lot of enemies.
That's interesting. I always thought that they paid for the treatment.
They paid for me to fly out there and usually 2 handheld, a field producer and director, and a sound guy. Mm-hmm. And they paid for us to fly wherever we were going. And at the greatest hotel we ever stayed at. Sometimes it was bed and breakfast, but majority of the time it was Holiday Inn Express. That was top of the line, buddy. And so as the show got more popular and I got recognized, I was sequestered in my hotel rooms because nobody could see that I was in town. Before, I'd get to wander around and went to a bunch of great little places and had a good time. I was never allowed to go to a 12-step meeting because the minute that they knew I was in town, they knew who else was in town. So it was all kept very secretive.
Mm. So I want to go into a little bit about your husband, you mentioned, and may he rest in peace. And I know that there are many, it's just a few years since he passed away. Mm-hmm. And his memory for you and for so many people who knew him was significant. Mike Finnigan, and the bands that he played for were tremendous. And years of being sober while playing for all these bands and all these musicians is amazing. It's miraculous. So it is possible.
I wish I could show you what's right next to me. It's a huge platinum record thing with the cassette, the DVD, the actual record from Jimi Hendrix, Electric Ladyland. They presented it to him on his 60th birthday. So that was lovely. He played with everybody and anybody. He traveled with Crosby, Stills, and Nash for 30 years. Very
that's cool. One, if not my favorite group of all time.
Yes. Well, and funny, I'm going to see Stephen tonight. I'm still very, very close friends with him. And after Mike died, Stephen got into recovery, and he was 76.
I would love if you can have a little talk with him to see if he'd be willing to come on the podcast. I'm going to put that out there.
I have to tell you, he's lost his hearing, a great deal of it. It's very difficult. I'll ask him.
Okay.
It's very difficult for him to do. He goes to meetings in person. I can tell you he doesn't read lips. But my voice is so loud and I'm so loud that, we get along
Well,
fine.
We can crank up the mic here.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask him. Sure. Right. I'll ask him.
Because
he's my daughter's godfather. And he's one of my all-time favorite people. I mean, I'm crazy about him.
Well, the
only thing good that came out of my husband passing away, by the way.
The fact that he got sober at the age that he did after so many years and being able to, it doesn't matter at what age you get sober. The younger, the better, obviously, for everyone, and for specifically for relationships and whatever else. But
his wife is in recovery.
But the fact that he did that now and is pretty darn good.
Well, what he said to me was at my husband's memorial, which you can, there's a Facebook of it taped. And he said, all these people said all these wonderful things. Half of the room was musicians. The other half was 12-step. Mm-hmm. And he said, everybody would talk about, I've got, $2 million, $3 million worth of guitars, and I'm in, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 3 times and everything. But nobody would have ever said I was a nice man because I wasn't. He was always so lovely to me and very close friends with my they were intellectual friends and kind of political friends. It wasn't all about music ever. And I helped raise his son, Chris, who I'm still very close friends with and see all the time. I was just with both of them, and his daughter, Ellie, and he's got 7 kids. So he was a busy guy for a while. But he's been with his wife, Kristen, for a long time, and she's in recovery and wonderful. And so I can tell you quite honestly that he is truly one of my dearest friends. And actually, today's the anniversary of Joe Cocker's death. And Mike was very close with him and played with him for a long time. And he was Etta James's musical director for over 20 years, on and off. She was very sporadic and touring. So if he wasn't touring with his usual job, he would always be with her, and he helped get her sober, and we were very close. And oh my God, was she a hoot. Funniest, probably one of the funniest women I've ever met.
When you can get someone sober, you have a whole different relationship with them.
Well, how you get someone sober is you're an example.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of, as you say, spirituality goes into that, and connection and relationship and trust.
We, both of us helped Bonnie Raitt, and she's got over 30 years. So, and Mike played with her for a long time before he got sick. And so really it can go on and on and on. He had a little jazz band with Taj Mahal, or a little blues band called the Phantom Blues Band that he was a member of. And he had a sober band called the Jones Boys. And, Mike would do anything to attach to music, because music was very healing and a great part of recovery.
Sure. And there are a few, for those musicians out there who want to get sober, there are a few treatment centers that still use music, have studios for music.
Oh, yeah. One in Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Cumberland Heights, and
And Cirque Lodge.
Yeah. And Cirque Lodge, you know what Cirque Lodge was? It was the Allman Brothers studio.
Oh, really? I think I may have been told that, and I've forgotten about it. Yeah.
Yeah, my husband went and recorded there for some type of music that had to do with Make-A-Wish. Maria was very involved in that. And Larry King's wife, Shanna, they were best friends. And so it was, at one point was the studio, and the other point was the lodge. And then, so there's actually 2 different treatment centers at Cirque.
Right. So, Candy, where do people find you and all about you? And
Well, I don't think they need to know all about me. Somebody said, "Have you ever Googled yourself?" And I thought, hell no. I don't even want to know what they said. What's a nice girl from Kansas doing in a place like this? If they need me, they can find me. That's what I always.
And the book that you published, is it on Amazon? Is it on?
Yeah, it is. It's Penguin Avery, and it's I got so many requests when the show was on, and I couldn't answer even half of them, and so intervention in the simplest modality is a family gathering together, and all feeling the same way at the same time, which is always hard.
Yeah. And
you can find, somebody to bring in. If it's legal, you could have your attorney come. If it's spiritual, you could have your pastor or your priest come, minister. It's like, have some.
We've actually had rabbis attend the intervention.
Oh yeah, they're some of my favorites. There's nothing like a sober rabbi.
That's true.
They really bring it. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
and you can have them come in to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. Somebody has to be the spokesperson. You just have to basically make sure that it's kept a secret. They're not going to show up. They're going to disappear for a while, and have a treatment center in mind. I used to probably refer to 15 treatment centers. I now refer to 5. My business is not on the up and up like it is. It's very sad, very competitive, very greedy.
Mm-hmm.
We have all these big, huge companies investing in treatment centers. There's a treatment center that I used to refer to all the time, and they're now part of 160 conglomerates, 160 mom and pops that this company bought. And they have a handbook, and you got to follow it, and they don't get my business anymore.
Yeah, it's changed tremendously, and there are just a handful of treatment
patient
centers.
Brokering and kickbacks, and the only thing I joke I ever get as a kickback is a bad chicken dinner from Betty Ford once a year. But I still refer there. I still love their 12-step introduction. Yes, people have trauma, and horrible trauma, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to get sober before you can start working on it. These people that you're in detox and they start working on trauma, I mean, how could they stay sober?
Well, you have to have your head clear for sure. I mean, some people don't even recognize they had trauma.
We need real psychological testing, not assessing. Mm-hmm. Assessing can take 20 minutes. Check that. Here's some medication, which we're going to learn a lot about, and that's what's happened in the last couple of weeks. But it's like you have to get a diagnosis. Alcohol is a depressant, and if you're depressed and on antidepressants, it's going to take you to the depths of despair. And it's like, did anybody ever say, do you use alcohol or drugs? It isn't on those sheets. Yeah. What's your insurance? How much do you have? Do you own your house?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of the family medicine or psychiatrists don't know, so they prescribe the drugs, antidepressants that they don't know. They don't ask about the questions. They don't ask what other medications and or drugs.
Well, they do an assessment, and it literally takes anywhere from 17 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a checklist, please don't do that.
Sure.
And, Adderall's the number 1 abuse drug in colleges.
Yes, it is. Well, how about high school, too?
Well, I'm sure that, but I mean, a lot of kids that never got diagnosed in high school, they get to college and start, having some freedom and staying up too late. And you can go to their doctor and go, oh, I can't focus, and I'm so depressed. And they go, here.
So I want to just end with this because I think this is important. But Adderall, I want to just put this out there. Adderall is like taking street cocaine and can be used in the same mechanism, crushing.
Well, it's difficult to snort, but where cocaine was primarily, cocaine didn't come in a pill form, except if you were, it was always a powder form.
Sure.
It's hard,
but it leads into cocaine. Many
it
times.
leads into anything. If you can afford cocaine, it's a lot cheaper to get a prescription. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to name them because I don't want names out there, but there's a jillion of these drugs. This doesn't have as much amphetamine salts, and this doesn't make you upset, and this you only have to take 1 a day instead of 1 every 4 hours, and this and this. And time is mixed. They've got a million ADHD stuff. Listen, I've got to tell you, some concern for me right now is our president just made pot into a level 3 drug. Mm-hmm. I never knew it was a level 1 drug with cocaine and heroin and all the rest of it. It's legal, here in California. Yeah. How could it be? And I have to tell you, and there's a wonderful man named Dr. Timothy Thong. He's head of addiction services at UCLA, and amazing doctor. And about 5-6 years ago, I was at a little luncheon and he was speaking, and I had met him because he's a gambling expert for the second show of intervention for this kid that was a gambling addict. And I just didn't know much about it, to be honest with you. And I'd heard about him, and I called him up and I said, want to be on TV? And he went, well, hell yeah. And I've been friends with him since, like 2005. but he was one of the 6 top researchers for cannabinoids and cannabis research. And the psychosis I have seen that's coming out of pot, I would have bet, well, maybe not my house. I would have bet my car, no, that it was methamphetamine psychosis, the paranoia.
Sure.
And
some of it's not even clearing for these young kids.
Oh, I know. And it takes anywhere from 4 to 7 months to clear out of your system if you're doing oil and dabbing. Mm-hmm. And there's a wonderful, I'm very attached to a program in high schools here called One on Campus with Lynn Peterson. And he's on our board, as I am. And there's 2 wonderful kind of educational tapes on YouTube with Dr. Timothy Fong. One of them on vaping.
I'll have to have him on the show. I've heard of him. I've heard of him.
He is magic.
I'll have to put them down.
And sure. Denise knows him. He's
I think she's mentioned him, and I think he was a couple places that I've been recently. So.
He was at the Christmas party running around spreading joy, as he always does. But I learned so much from him long before you could not have a pot abuser and get them treatment. No treatment center would take. If they smoke pot, they'd go, "Oh, you're so lucky." And I felt the same way. That's all your kids doing?
Not any longer.
I can't honestly tell you how many kids go into treatment never having done anything but smoke pot. Mm-hmm. I would adore if you had Lynn Peterson on. She is an adolescent expert, young adult expert. She's set up Newport Academy, and she is brilliant. But she has this retreat center, Alter the Course now, instead of sending your kid to treatment. And kind of getting them a new blueprint for life. And I mean, there's other ways to do this, but she is a real expert on adolescent and young adults and brilliant. I'm very rarely around it that I don't learn something from
two great names. I will definitely look for. Well, thank you, Candy. I really appreciate it. Your time, your experience, your dedication, and foremost, your recovery.
And by the way, I'm in a play.
Oh, yeah. I'll be talking to Tom Parker about that play. So
I mean, talk about magic. He is so magical. So, if I called you up and said, "Hey, could you maybe write a play on codependency?" And 3 days later he calls and it's a musical. He's fabulous.
We'll be talking about that play. That for sure.
Yeah, we're all codependent. So,
I'll see you in the next show that you do here in South Florida. And
that would be great. I'd love to. You can have all of us on.
We have lots of room here in the studio.
So just bring them all. Yes.
All right.
Take care of yourself and bless you. And thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. It was fun. Thank you, Candy. Thank you for joining the conversation today. If you are seeking help for yourself or a loved one, please reach out to our Feinberg Consulting team at 248-538-5425. That's 248-538-5425, and check out our website at feinbergcare.com. I'm grateful for our guests and all who have joined us today. Make sure you follow us on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.